The Beef and Barnzy Show, brought to you by Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Roll to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good morning and welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy Show. I am, of course, Barnzy, joined by the inimitable Stuart Williams. How are you this fine morning from Pflugerville, Texas?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I don't have to try and run an entire show by myself. I've got guests and a co-host, so that's exciting.
You've outdone yourself.
Yeah. But I'm an award-winning broadcaster now.
Award-winning.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff Goodger won an award for the best live stream from the International Bowling Media or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they call it, International Bowling Media Association.
IBMA, yeah.
Yeah, and the best live stream of the year was July 14th, which happened to be the one that I was on.
All right. There you go.
Thank you. I think that it is just a reflection of how little the other pros who came on gave a shit and didn't really contribute much to the broadcast. That our particular one, I don't think anything particularly exciting happened. We just had a chat. So, yep. Me, Phil Frames, and Goodyear. So
there you go.
PBA gave us a shout out this morning, even tagged the Beef and Barnzy channel. So that was nice of him.
Oh, really? All right. Missed that.
It was on YouTube. You're too old for YouTube.
Yeah, no, I'm not actually. But Ryan completed all 9 games.
Oh my God, he was fucking rubbish, wasn't he?
He's 7-10 5 times. All he could see on live stream is all the splits. I'm like, good grief. He said,
"Hey, all I'm hearing there is
4-9 twice."
Welcome to our world, boy.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. So you hitting the gym more? Well,
we'll see. I am seeing a bit of a smirk there from our guests, so we will see. But all right, we'll get to it at the end. But quick shout out to Wayfentan. What a fucking performance on the women's show. She bowled 10.26, which is about a 256 or 257 average for her 4 games, and her opponents bowled 735 without bowling a 200. So usually that
average
that
margin of victory 75.
Huh?
Average margin of victory 75.
Yeah, I was just saying it usually relieves the stress when you don't need to bowl the last 3 frames of each game. Yeah. Sick. The last 2 games specifically, 269, 290. Yeah, fairly absurd, but good for her. Looking like she's in a very strong position now to end up with the Player of the Year trophy. Although I think they do it on points, so who knows what that means. I don't know, but feels like she should be in solid position anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah. Hello, Glenn. Thanks for joining us again. Should we bring these two in?
No further ado. Let's get these guys in here.
So we've got Andy Sykes, who is the owner, chief trainer at Amplify Fitness in Wichita, and he's got his star pupil with him. All right, LeVois.
Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, how's it going?
So you're going to explain to us, Andy, in real terms, why Frankie going to the gym causes his opponents to go 9-miss all of the time.
Yeah, I think that's to do with the hard patterns that he shows up to more
No,
whenever
no.
they're hard. That's Frankie's bread and butter right there.
I think it's when he flexes on them, they get a little nervous.
He's been working at it. He
Yeah.
came with some new goals this year. He's changed his diet a little bit. He's asked for some adjustments in his training, and he's been working hard. So I don't know. I don't know if I have any contribution at all, but if anything, maybe a bit of the psychological. When you push hard, things go well for you. So
It's a mental warfare is what it is.
Yeah.
He gives me too much credit, but all I know is next year on tour, Chris Vi is going to be crawling into a hole when I show up.
Chris does look good though.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're going to get shirts with tighter pipes here.
Yeah.
I'm
not sure we can get them any smaller, so you're going to have to meet it halfway.
I've been trying to size up. That's why I'm here.
Okay. I do think putting the other hand on the ball might be a more significant size up than anything that we can do in the gym, but
that's fair.
All right. Well, we've got a few questions coming in. So, does the workout include stretching to help on follow throughs? I think he's asking for a friend.
Yeah, I mean, we work with all sorts of bowlers, whether one-handed, two-handed, and in addition to bowling, I mean, you're a human, right? You've got goals. Whether you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to get a little bit bigger. We customize the programs just like any trainer would, to your needs. So yeah, if you're tight and that's limiting your game, and is even affecting your life, then we're going to throw in mobility exercises that help you reduce pain, reduce tightness, and hopefully have better form. I was just in a camp at Wichita State on the weekend that we run each summer, and some of the biomechanical limitations people have in their shoulder causes them to rotate, and they're not able to have a free swing. So like that would be something I highlight straight away is we need to increase mobility through this joint. So yeah, it just depends on the person. And I think when people think about bowling and they think about workouts for bowling, it's, people giggle and think, it's silly, but we all have our own issues and our own goals. So it's really just, what do you need? And let's help you to get that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody thinks it's necessarily silly for workouts for bowling. I think it's more that there isn't necessarily so far there hasn't necessarily been a direct correlation with the guy who's in the the best necessary shape being the guy who's bowling the best.
Right.
But obviously you look at someone like Amleto, who had been getting up at before the light is broken for dawn, and he's been competitive for way longer than most of his peers. So
Right.
I think there is. I just don't know that. I think people definitely, round is a shape, Stu. There you go. Appreciate it. But I think that's part of it.
Just not Buddha, huh?
Yeah. But like I say, I think, Frankie can attest to some of the work he's been doing with you and what has helped him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Andy talked about mobility a little bit, and that's the big thing for me is like we're doing a little bit of weightlifting, but I'm not necessarily trying to get super big. I was joking about that earlier, but for me, it's mobility. I have like a couple areas where I'm fairly tight, and so that hurts you when you're trying to bowl. And he brought that up earlier. So this year I had an injury in the groin area, and that probably was caused by being a little tight, and I'm kind of uptight in the neck and shoulders area. So for me, it's just working on range of motion and trying to increase that. And the big thing is just longevity, like you talked about Amleto. And yeah, there's all sorts of bowlers who can do it into their 50s. Like you look at the 50 tour. The game is also turning into much more of a power game. And so, especially for the youth, looking ahead, I think it's probably going to be pretty important to focus on the fitness aspect of it if you want to be able to do it for a long time. Because as the motion gets a little more violent, as the body takes more of a toll, as people bowl now, the way people bowl now, I think it's definitely going to be more important to focus on the fitness aspect of things. So for me, it's just about range of motion and yeah, just a general life thing to be healthy. But I mean, Chris can attest to what it's like as you get older a little bit. It's not like he's a mega power player, but in order for him to, I know he's been in the gym trying to stay healthy and stay on top of his game.
I
Yeah.
thought you were about to say spring chicken when you spoke about Chris.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, and you guys
Spring roll,
touched
maybe.
on already, but being around a bunch of guys that are 55 years old and 50 years old and 60 years old, and the amount of tape and braces and and massage guns and things that are out there, the work starts now for the guys in their 20s if they want to keep competing. And there's Ron Moore's an example from the past of just being in better shape than everybody. He was a guy who was never successful on the PBA tour. JJ Janowitz never went out there, but he's in better shape than everyone else. And on the senior tour, it certainly is easy to see who's in the best shape and who's the least injured. So I know it all plays into it. I'm interested to hear your general thoughts on where it all plays in.
Just let me quickly to answer this question. For me, this isn't particularly difficult right now. It's the phase 2. I'm trying to work the Rockstar in, but the phase 2 is by far more comfortable for me. What about you two fellas?
Yeah, I've had them fairly similar, just the Rockstar being a little bit stronger and a little bit earlier, but I find myself going to the phase 2 quite a bit. The Rockstar kind of fits, it's in between a couple of balls, and whereas the phase 2 kind of has a more distinct shape, so I tend to go towards that one a little bit more.
It's funny you say that about the
Rockstar,
Rockstar, because I honestly can't decide. Like some days I feel like the Rockstar is way cleaner than the phase 2, and then other days I feel like it's way earlier, and that's part of my problem. I don't have a definite like gap exactly where I know it's going to fit. Whereas when I go to the phase 2, I kind of know exactly what I'm going to get from it, and I don't really have that from the Rockstar at the minute.
And I guess I haven't really had a lane shine Rockstar, and maybe that's because I haven't thrown it a whole lot. But most of my Rockstars have been fairly new out of the box, and when they're like that, I kind of feel like they're earlier and a little bit stronger overall than the phase 2. Pretty close, but just not quite as much down lane. So if I want something earlier, I would just use a Sublime Focus, and then if I need to switch balls, I would just go to the phase 2 usually.
Okay. Yeah, I think you guys are on the Rockstar. I think it's a little more responsive. So when there's friction in the front, then it
that makes
plays
sense
into what Stu says. I like it a little bit more than the phase 2, but I was late to be able to throw the phase 2 compared to you guys, and so I didn't get to fall in love with it 10 years ago.
I mean, I do think that does play a big part. Like when you have a relationship, so to speak, with the ball, you kind of like it makes it hard to replace it unless you're forced to.
Right.
The Aggie, one of our frequent contributors, he says, good time for this topic. Had to drop out of his summer league to try and rehab the shoulder. Going to be a long and boring summer without bowling. Well, keep watching the show. We'll try and keep you entertained. So, Andy, bear in mind that the majority of our viewers aren't in Wichita. Do you have like a facility for like a online, like the ability to do like online consults, or for people who want to reach out?
Yeah. We do phone calls. I mean, I was messaging people from around the world. Honestly, there's just this morning. That's the beauty of our age, where we got social media, but we've also got apps and software that you like. We're in probably 3 different states right now, and so we've got an app. We use a Team Builder, and then we put all of our exercises. I've got thousands of exercises that we've videoed with microphones. Actually, I think Frankie actually demos a couple of them on that app. So you get the app and you get to see us do the exercise, talk through it, and then complete it. And it's all tracking based, asking you for reps. If there's a weight in that exercise, if it's one side, then you do the other side. Unilateral, bilateral. It can be hit anywhere, and we have people all over the world that utilize us and continue to subscribe to the app.
I've used the app before. Like if I'm on the road, for example, Andy will still put in some workouts on there that I can do on my own, if it's whether it's in a hotel gym or if I can get into a Planet Fitness or something like that. But I've used it before, and it's really nice about having the videos, because a lot of I'm not necessarily a huge fitness guy. I do it kind of, I never really fell in love with it. I do it for the same reason I brush my teeth, just because it's a healthy thing to do. But some of the exercises have these weird names, and like they're very specific, and most people just don't know what they are. But with the videos, it's easy to just click on it, and if you don't know what they are, the video will show you how to do it. And he's really good at explaining what sort of muscle group to focus on while you're doing the exercises. So that's been beneficial if I'm on my own. If I'm not with him, I'm still able to get a good workout in.
Yeah, completely customizable. I mean, we've got a few options, and I see the question coming in about how much it costs. It depends on what you're looking for. We have cheaper options that are template workouts that you can try, and see how it goes, see how the app operates, and see if it's something you like. And then we can tier that up from beginner to intermediate and advanced programs. And then what we recommend is the customizable program, which is when we sit down for 30 minutes to 60 minutes, we talk about what you're going through, what your access is to equipment, and what your availability is. There's no point me saying, all right, I want you to do 5 days a week, when your schedule doesn't really allow for that. So we take into consideration several factors, and then we put together a program that we should be successful for you, right? And then each month we call and check in and see how you're doing. Is there certain exercises that you really liked and you want to keep doing? Other ones that you disliked? And we modify from there. So yeah, it's really helpful. I mean, we've got several pros that are utilizing it, but we've got several amateurs, we've got youth. We're able to customize it to whatever the needs are of the client.
So what's the sort of price range?
We start at $20 and it goes up to $100 a month. So just depending on those needs.
Okay.
A lot of that information is on our website, amplifymytraining.com. And there's a bowling tab. You can see that some of the people we've worked with, we're constantly trying to update it. But I mean, my world, I'm an expert in strength and conditioning. I'm not an expert in digital media or website creation. So we do our best to try and keep up with that. But yeah, getting a phone call and ideally come to see me in person, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the main advantages of Andy, not to pump his tires too much, but the fact that he's a bowler. Him and I bowled at Wichita together. He's a year older than me, so we've known each other for a while. And the fact that he is a bowler, he's been on Team England, he's been on Wichita State's team. The fact that he's a bowler and a trainer, there's not a lot of trainers who really understand bowling, and he understands sort of the range of motions, and he's really knowledgeable about the biomechanics and everything like that. And on top of that, he really understands bowling at a high level. And so he's really able to tailor the workouts to professional bowling, or just bowling in general, because he understands what sort of muscle groups need to work together to achieve success.
Yeah.
I do think that is a big difference with when you go in the gym and you're talking to some of the guys, and some of the things that they're tailoring, it isn't really based on, what you actually need. It's very much.
Well, I think especially on social media, there's a lot of, we hear a lot of misinformation out there. I think it's just, is it right for you? And what's really popular is aesthetics, what makes you look good, but that's not what athletes train. And then there's again, misinformation with sport specific or exercises. I mean, we have the like I've taught this for 10 years at the university. So I was a professor there, teaching nutrition, teaching exercise physiology. That's what I got my master's in. And so we're able to filter a lot of this information. We know what's correct and what isn't correct. And we can give you the best information. So I really understand people doing their own research and looking online, but a lot of what you'll find is the girls are the popular ones online because they want to watch them and look at them, they look good. But is it best for your goals as an athlete in your sport? And I work with tons of sports. I mean, there's a lot of crossover with certain sports. We work with baseball and the rotational stuff of baseball and the throwing of baseball. We work with volleyball, we work with soccer, and each has their own needs, and there are some crossovers, but it definitely isn't bodybuilding. And there's a specifically different way you train for bodybuilding. I do have experience there, but when talking about bowling population, it shouldn't be the same training methodology that is used. So
I mean, I think this is exactly what this guy's talking about. How much strength training is too much for bowl, and one of the keys to a good game is a loose arm swing without muscle.
it is a loose arm swing, right? You want to have an arm swing that's straight. If you're too tight and your torso's rotating and now it's pulling your arm right to left, consistency is going to be an issue, and shot repetition. So it's there's also something called proprioception, is understanding your limb in space, understanding where it is, and that's a role with tension in the body. You've got to be able to, how do I have a free swing and relax the shoulder, but also keep tight in the core so that I can walk straight? It's having distinction between the two, and being able to train that. What exercise in the gym actually help you practice that so you get better at it?
Jesus Christ. Clown show, bro. Clown show. Bowlers on roids and Speedos.
Yeah, it's like, and just to add to what he's saying, a lot of the stuff that I do when I come in here, he has me do a lot of legs and core stuff because those two are very important in bowling. We'll do some upper body to try to even things out, but like it's definitely not bodybuilding like he was saying.
Yeah. So
I saw a question there. Well, what's the app called? We use Team Builder. It is one that's used by many associations. You brought in the guy from Malaysia that came in, Timmy
Tan.
Timmy Tan, and his Team Malaysia is also using the same app out there. It's probably one of the most used ones around the world, and it's a blueprint model that you get the system, and then as a coach or a trainer or a team, you get to put in the programs, you get to put in the videos, and you can, depending on your subscription level, get different options on it. But Team Builder is the app, and then once you go in, you tell them you're with Amplify, and you can go from there.
He says, JM says, great answer, thanks. I've been a powerlifter and a bodybuilder and have the exact same issues with lack of upper body mobility.
Yeah, and being strong is good. I mean, there's nothing wrong to say that strength, the more strength you have, the less you need to use it, right? We don't need a muscle and force the ball. You get that power as a result. We've been working with Jared Romick recently, and I feel like his game in the last year has been amazing too, because he's been able to put on a little bit of size and strength, but because we know what we're doing, he hasn't lost any mobility. And he's been able to stay nice and free, and his shot has increased power without really trying, because he's just got a little bit more muscle. Strength is an advantage. We are a power, especially with the two-handers, this power endurance sport. There's a little bit more hip hinge that comes with some issues that could potentially arise. But if you train right and you know what you're doing, then it's got a question here, Glancy. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, you see a lot of that. I have a torn labrum related to, presented as a groin injury and then turned out to was a small tear there. And so, I do band work and stretching and things on a regular basis because the repair for that at my age is relatively marginally successful on a regular basis. And so the good news, bad news is I do more working out now and prep to bowl than I ever have, and the bad news, that's just to get back to where I was. So you're way better off doing some of this up front. I
do it early. Yeah, in all things in life, in health too, like you get to a peak, males probably 30s, 40s, when then you see a decline. It's probably after 30s for the majority of the population, depending on how they train and how they keep their health. But it's like, how high can I get before I hit that decline, right? If you can get to a higher fitness level, then you're going to have a longer path. And you mentioned Amoletto. He's a prime example. I knew of him back in 15 years ago, and he was the older guy that was always fit, and that was something I admired. And we're still talking about him today, 15 years later. So shout out to him. He's done a great job, and hopefully he continues to do it and be an inspiration to others.
Yeah, I strongly recommend a program like this because I've gone into gyms, and I got the gym bro in there, and he's 23, and he's still fresh out of college, and he wants me to work out at 30, 35 or 38 years old, like him and his buddies do, with no real plan or sport specific part of it. And more than once, after jumping into that regimen full in, I end up sustaining an injury from basically overtraining past what my capabilities and what my needs were. And and so talk to Ryan for him working with you, and I think sport specific type things are really important in what we do.
Yeah, I think what you said is it happens a lot. When people decide, okay, I'm going into this fitness kind of trend, and I'm going to try hard. They go all out, and then they end up hurting themselves, and they end up then taking a break because they can't sustain that intensity or that effort. I think consistency, just like practice, that's the key. If you can keep showing up and have gradual growth, that's going to have the most progress long term. I understand people really wanting to get after it, but it's with experience and with knowledge, and that's what I bring, that we say, okay, just complete what I'm asking to you, and we'll make slow progress. Because you definitely can do more than what I tell you, and that's what commonly happens. But that's where you get tight. That's where you get some of the results that we don't want. And so it's an experience, and it's a long-term strategy that we try to push for, because that's the game of bowling. It's long-term. You've got to be able to practice and put in the 10,000 reps to get better at stuff. And if you aren't able to do that, then you're not going to get better at bowling. So
yeah, and I think that applies to a lot of things, whether it's diet, whether it's workouts, any of that. Is sustainability is a big key. And if it becomes part of your routine, then it's something that you can build on and be better at for a long time.
Hunt Outdoors says, Beef and Barnzy, I have a real question about practice that goes along with fitness. How often a week do you practice on and off season? This is the most it depends question of all time. Because now, because I've got more arthritis in my hands, I don't practice as much as I used to, because you've just got to you've just got to understand your limitations and understand when and what, and also it depends how well or badly you're bowling. Like, if you're bowling terrible, you're going to be in the bowling center more. If you're bowling pretty well, it's kind of preventative maintenance, I guess, is the best way of describing it for me anyway. So, I might go down the bowling center and I might have I always talk about when we bowled on the European tour, like 15 years ago or something, Nina Flack won 2 or 3 events in a row. And it really pissed me off because she won because she could throw it straight and the guys couldn't. So I spent the next 3 months, I didn't hook it at all when I went to practice. And then I beat the shit out of her in the next event when I finally figured out what I was doing, because I was just like, it's almost like an opportunity in the market, so to speak. Those conditions are coming up. You have very little competition because there is so few people who can do that particular skill set. I think Chris has taken advantage of that a lot over the time. I mean, I feel like that's why you were so successful in those best of 7 matches, because of all the guys who threw it straight, you hooked it better than all of those. And of the majority of the guys who hooked it, you threw it better straight than all of those. So kind of defined how you were going to bowl the match.
I might not have been in the top 5 of either side, but environmentally, you fill gaps. In the back half of my career, I probably had more success playing straight on that tour. And then, of course, on the PBA 50, it's on the other side. It's hooks it more.
But to me, that goes into practice. So if I have something specifically that I need to work on, then I'm going to be bowling 4 or 5 times a week. if I don't necessarily have a lot of events, like in June, for example, we had the one event that Frankie won. I've had Brady's swim meets. I haven't really had a lot of bowling tournaments. Like coming up to the end of the month, I've got to like start ramping up because I'm going to bowl the LBC, and then I've got a thing in Lubbock, the big event in Lubbock again. Shout out to Lubbock Sports and both the bowling centers out there. Great prize funds. And then after that, we've got a couple more events. Then the Lucy. Then I'm going up to the UBA. So I've got a lot of stuff coming up. So I've been bowling probably, one league a week and maybe practicing once a week at the minute because it isn't really that important to be like super sharp at this minute. But, with the weeks coming up, it's starting to get to the point where you have to ramp back up. Now, when I was a little younger, I wouldn't have been in this situation where I was like kind of letting it slip to come back and get it because I could bowl as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But now I don't have that.
Yeah, really quickly. When I was Ryan's age, 23, 24, I kept track one year. I missed 12 days for the year. Now, a lot of those days were just bowling league, 3 days, 3 games or whatever. But I basically bowled every day. And when I was bowling good, it was just 3 games, or I go practice for an hour. But I bowled every day for a little bit. And then when it's bad, then, you work. I worked until I felt good about that day.
So what you're saying is you only missed federal holidays, and it's probably because the bowling centers were closed.
Well, I was in Wichita, so lots of times even then they weren't closed. But
yeah,
it was a little different situation for sure. There's not a better environment in the world to become a good bowler than being in Wichita from that standpoint.
What he's saying is there's very little to do in Wichita.
There was a lot of independently owned centers that were open in the afternoons when
and that contributes to being in the bowling center and becoming a good bowler.
Yeah. And so now as I get older, I'm not able to bowl as much, and some of that is circumstances because centers aren't open as much. And some of it's just my body doesn't allow me to every day. But I do want to circle back around to you guys. How often should somebody work out? And give me 3 things bowlers should really focus on.
We've actually had this conversation before as we plan out our year. Is on the off season. That is the time that you should be in the weight room, if you want to call it the training room, a little bit more. You don't have to focus on your shot execution as much in the off season. So that's when we can make our adjustments and our progress in the physicality of your body. And we do that with Frankie. I see him 3 times a week during the off season, and then when the in season comes, I'm not trying to pull him away and be like, I want you in here. I'm like, go practice. The idea is that we start tapering how much training you do. The goal is to be a good bowler, not to be a professional weightlifter, right? So we are tapering the amount of training that we're doing inside the gym, and we're then increasing the amount of shots that you're shooting at the RSC or whatever it is we're practicing. And we've had that conversation. And then there's months that, he's on tour and I don't see him at all, and that's his focus. So I can fully support him for that. I have less business, but that's what I want, because I want the success of the athlete, and that's how I become successful as a coach as well. So I think that's the answer. Yeah.
I think the answer to both, the answer to practicing and bowling on and off season, and the answer to working out on and off season is fairly similar. It just, you're going to do it a little bit less intensely and less often when you're in the middle of the season for bowling practice and for working out, and you're going to get a little more intense. Like we were joking about putting on a little muscle mass, but now's the time when now's the good time to do that. You don't really want to do that in the middle of the season. You'll be sore all the time, and how sore you get after a workout. So during the season, it's a lot more just Stu says he doesn't know. During the season, it's just a lot more about just making sure, range of motion stuff and just body weight stuff.
And even travel. I mean, you're about to fly out to England tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if you're about to travel and you're about to have a long flight, we're not doing legs, right? Because you're about to be static. And the worst thing you can do is not move when you're sore, because that will only exaggerate the issue. You need to be moving and having blood flow to have the recovery. And we talk a lot about that. We tailor the program. Like if you got a tournament on the weekend, we need to be heavier on Monday, Tuesday in our training. Can we get you in on the schedule then, so that we have time to recover and we're not sore, and that's not impacting the way you feel when you bowl. That's all part of it, and that's something you learn as you do it.
Yeah, I think over time I felt like legs and core super important, and then as I've aged more, mobility. But nothing hurts more than long travel, whether it's a long time in a car or a long time in a plane. A big number of injuries or things that presented as injuries that are probably longer term coming have come after those long trips like that.
Yeah, we're not meant to sit down much. I mean, sedentary lifestyles, and a lot of people experience like low back pain and stuff because they're seated, their office work and stuff like that. But yeah, travel, if you're driving a lot or you're on a plane, like your hips at 90 degrees is not ideal. We should be standing. And so understanding that, knowing it, how do I, once I get off the plane and I'm at the hotel, what are some things I can do that will reverse and counteract some of that tightness that I would experience? And even if I'm not feeling it yet, it might be coming, the day later, because that's typically how soreness arises with delayed onset.
Start doing yoga in the aisle in the middle of the flight.
I was about to say, getting the red ass after you've bowled all day and sitting in the car and driving 9 hours home is one of the worst things ever. And I think that the three of us have experienced that
quite a few times.
Yeah, quite a few times.
I had so after the tournament in Lubbock, we got done pretty late, and Wichita Falls had some pretty severe thunderstorms that evening. So I ended up calling our buddy, the storm chaser, Nathan Bohr, and I asked him for some advice. I said, well, first of all, I said, I'm hearing there's some really bad weather in Wichita Falls, and from Lubbock to come back to Wichita, that's usually where you go through. And he said, give me a second. So he's looking at the map and he said, oh yeah, it's going to get really bad. It's going to get really bad. So I said, so if you were me, you would try to find an alternate route. And I don't really know because I've only ever been through Wichita Falls. Right. So his answer was, well, if I were you, I would drive towards Wichita Falls right now because he loves watching that stuff. I said, all right, let me rephrase. If you were someone who does not storm chase, what would you do? And so he had me go through Amarillo. It added an hour to the drive, but I went through Amarillo, and he said, now let me be clear. You're going to hit a storm in Amarillo, but after that, it'll be smooth sailing. And it wasn't a tornado watch or anything. It was just a lot of rain, heavy rain through Amarillo. But I went up north through Amarillo up to Liberal, Kansas, and then kind of western Kansas, and then went east to Wichita. But yeah, so that added an hour to the drive. So I got home at about 2 a.m, and then I had to pack, and I had a flight to go to, because I just spent the week in Florida doing some clinics with Bowlers Mart. So I had a flight leaving at 8 a.m. after getting home at 2. So yeah, that was kind of a challenging day. But Nathan is funny with that stuff.
Nathan is the best, isn't he?
Nathan's funny with that stuff. I called him. He was my first call. I said immediately, who do I talk to about this? Nathan will know. And he's given me all the, he was pretty specific about all of it. So I felt pretty confident. But yeah, just traveling, like you guys said, it gets brutal.
Well, bearing in mind, I come from England, so we don't really have weather as such. It's just
it rains all the time.
It's just dead in the middle. It's like if it's 85, they shut schools. Like it's just it rains, occasionally snows. That's it. Like hail isn't really a thing. It's like tiny little pebbles. It's like So anyway, I'm driving home from
travel. One thing real quick is another thing we struggle, and I talk with a lot of clients about as a nutrition specialist, is how do we eat with travel? Because that becomes very difficult. And we talk a lot about that and how we prepare for that. Because when you're bowling a block and then you're done at 8 or 9 o'clock, what are you eating that's good? The only things open are fast food, McDonald's, or stop on the highway. So how do we plan ahead and make the best decisions so that we're not eating junk food all the time? That's another thing we discuss with our clients as well.
Dan says, do you have exercises to help me work on my motorhome just in case Chris has to ride with me again?
It feels like an inside joke we need to be filled on here, Chris.
Basically.
I rode from Dallas to Vegas to Colorado, and we spent almost as much time looking to fix problems, so we could get on the road as we did being on the road. And that does not include the time it actually spent at a facility somewhere to be fixed. It cemented the fact that apparently I am Cousin Eddie and I am my own black cloud. And yeah.
Fixing stuff is
They are
work out
really
in
cool,
itself,
and it
just
is a really nice
this.
motorhome. But it turns out when you put them through an earthquake every single time you drive, it's a little tough.
So Andy, I know you had to get going. So do you have any last words for us? Anything you wanted to promote about what's going on or anything else?
I mean, just follow us on social media at Amplify My Training. We look at our website. We've got plenty of resources. Reach out, and I'll be happy to answer questions and watch the space. You know, this is a growing company. We've been around now 4 years, and we're making good strides towards improving the sport and making it more athletic. And I've got some dreams that I want to achieve, working with different brands and associations that we want to, you know, follow the likes of golf and what golf has done, and you know, it's hopefully we have a bright future, and I want to have a place in driving that forward. So watch this space.
All right.
And if you get in with him, you can have biceps like mine. Let me get that in the shot real quick.
Look at that. Like just using that finger a little bit. It's okay.
Good show.
It's
I
like
don't know what you're
that.
talking about.
That genuinely reminded me of when they use motor oil on pancakes to make it look like it's it's the perfect
Advertising.
All right, fellas. Thanks. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
later.
Appreciate it. See
All
ya.
right,
See you
take it
guys.
easy. Bye. All right. Well, it'd been a minute since we had a guest, so that was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for all you've done for Ryan. He speaks. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Charlie had one up here earlier about being 74, and wait, that's when the real fun begins. But I think they have blue pills for that, right? Is that what you're talking about, or where are we at? All right.
So, just swinging back, let's have a little chat about your US Open.
Yeah.
A step in the right direction or a bit more frustration by the end of the week?
No, well, both, but it's a step in the right direction. Hit the reset button, went back to the same fit I had from 89 to about 2022. Trying to meet it somewhere, you know, I believe the fit part, you know, might key up 15 to 20% of it, but I got to meet the rest of it. But it got back to some tools and things that I've been using. Yesterday's practice session was good. I got Linda there, so a good set of eyes, and it was one of the more useful. That's the one thing that I have been missing is really chances to practice, without it being for score or you know, the official practice session. We're trying to get kind of figured out what we're doing that week and come up with a game plan. So it was a useful day, and I think thanks for joining us, Roddy. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm both good. Basically, when I was playing straighter, you know, and it actually got shot reps closer to an acceptable level. But overall, I would grade the overall performance, because we did end up hooking it quite a bit most of the time, somewhere around about, I don't know, 62%. So,
okay.
And I finished
probably about a 37% increase.
Well, maybe, yeah. The fact that to miss checks out there at this stage was somewhere between disgusting, infuriating, embarrassing,
suicide,
and yeah,
somewhere between pissed off and suicide.
55. It's a good thing I wasn't 25. Let's just say.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Swank, he says, how come none of the tropical lines seem to get thrown on tour? They did a little bit. Wouldn't those kind of balls be really good more on short and light oil patterns? We don't really have light oil, and they would be possibly the worst thing I could throw on a short pattern.
Because they're both weak covers and weak cores. And
like for us, we're more likely to use a hyperdrive on a short pattern than we are a tropical, because in general on the PBA tour, guys don't have a trouble with speed. The tropical line is mainly for people who are kind of slower speed players, not necessarily rev dominant, just slower speed. And they don't really exist on the PBA tour. Just in general. Patrick Dombrowski uses them a little bit. The solid one, that blue and purple one, got a little bit of use. Balmo used it. I think Ryan had one for a little while. Simo used it a little bit.
The X-ray kind of took over down in that space.
Yeah. But that was pretty much the only week, and it was pretty much the only week the Typhoon looked really good as well. Was at the Players Championship up in Jackson. There was a little less oil on the lane overall, and quite a bit of friction, so they got some play. It was also because urethane wasn't really in play that week. Just in general, it wasn't necessarily in play, so guys were looking for alternatives. But generally, on the
cherry down and weak balls are a bad, bad mix. This is a really good question, Craig. Do you guys have a preferred pro shop technician, and how do we know if our pro shop is giving us the best service fit? That, as I was reading and thinking about it, it's a tough one to gauge.
I think that the best answer to all of this is your hand will tell you if you're getting the best service or fit. If you aren't blistering or developing large calluses, like as a league bowler, you shouldn't really be getting large areas of like hard skin and scarring. You're just not bowling enough to warrant it. Like nobody should be getting it really, but like, of course, over time, you're going to get a little bit of hard skin if you're bowling like 70 games a week. But if you're only bowling 3 games a week, you really shouldn't be seeing like big issues. But yeah, never want to be bowling in pain in your hand, wrist. So over time, I've only changed a couple of times. My father's helped me out, and then Pete Somoff was another person who was really good with me with the fit, and I still kind of use the oval that he drilled me, through various molds and stuff over time. I don't know that there are many shops that are high volume shops that are bad, because I think that over time, like, people spend their money fairly wisely. And if they feel like they're getting a bad service, they don't tend to, keep doing it.
Yeah. Agreed. Adam, I feel like at the Hammond's not my favorite place, but I do feel like I'm close enough to that. I could make the show there, and then in Jackson the week after that is the World Series,
and that's go time, bitches.
It's go time. It's time to join the party this year. So, Linda says it's been a lot of fun. How I've been bowling so far. She really enjoyed it.
I have very defined feelings on it. None of them are particularly positive from my game. However, my wife, I came across a 14-pound one, and we drilled it for fun because she was never going to want to order a urethane ball. Right. And Tina bowled quite well with it on Tuesday night. We bowled on Viper, and they were pretty miserable. Urethane, or keeping it kind of straight, was in play, and Tina had quite a good time with it. She came back after 1/10 frame and said, "If you're a urethane wanker and you know it, clap your hands," and then went.
Yeah, I think if in general you're kind of speed dominant, or really, urethane doesn't shape enough, and you want that shape, and reactive balls don't give you that shape in one way or another, I think it's an option. Simo has figured out he's got one that he really likes now, maybe two, I'm not sure, but he's using it quite a bit. Other than that, not a lot of guys are throwing it over even the red one, let alone the pitch black. But
yeah,
this is not a hard one to do. It is Thomas Geico, and it's not particularly close.
Oh, I'd forgotten about him. I was going to say Frankie, because Frankie's pretty low as well.
Yeah, no, I mean capable of, but Geico's top speed is barely.
Yeah,
it is barely. Most of the guys is low end speed.
Yep, that would be fair. That was a good call.
Let's see.
No, I'm not going up to Edmund. I didn't particularly fare well there the last time I went, and Brady's got his last swim meet, and
yeah, I have fond memories. That's where back when Richard Altman owned it, they had the Santa Claus, he had the Mac Doubles. The first sort of TV show I ever made was in that place. But practice session in Hammond is 7:30 a.m. on Monday.
Makes it a little challenging.
A little tricky. Edmond's not an easy place to get out of to Detroit. So I think I drive to Chicago.
No problem, Craig. Thanks for the tip. Appreciate you. Glad we gave you some clarity. Chris, what was Ryan's game plan for 2025 team trials? I'm bowling on those patterns specifically day 2 for a sports shot league. Can you even remember day 2 of the? Chris has watched a lot of bowling.
That was January 2nd, and I've basically had 3 weeks off since then. Yeah, I actually probably can go to my notes at some point, but yeah, offhand. I'll look while we're going through some other stuff.
Look, Coach Adam's coming through for you. The good news for you, Chris, is you're going to be bowling on a short pattern, 38 foot, and you'll be able to stay farther right, use urethane, and maybe even a level.
Probably not.
Chris is underrated by himself about how good he is with urethane.
Well, not with the level, I'm not.
No, with the red ball.
Red ball has a pretty good chance.
Hey, I'm old enough to remember game 1 of the PBA Tour season.
That's right. The highlight came, and it was. I mean, it could only go that way.
Oh my God!
It was a black diamond mountain downwards. But
shit. We were having a lot of fun at that point, giving Ryan a hard time. Oh my God, you're gonna let your dad kick your ass week 1 of your tour season? Yeah, it didn't work out so good after that. But
yeah.
I think Ryan had a 300 about 3 games later, didn't he?
I think I was 538 after 2, and I was already behind him. Yeah. So day 2 was 36 feet. It was a urethane fest. So, pitch black, and yeah. Best way equipment for someone with pretty forward ball roll, 15, 16, 400 RPMs.
For me, I kind of like in this gap, I kind of like pull asymmetricals. Like if you've kind of forward, like you kind of have that like decent rev rate. 385 to 425 is a pretty decent rev rate. Kind of medium to slightly slower speed, depending on where that 15 to 16 is. If that's on the monitor, that's still kind of medium to higher speed. Not a million miles away from what I do. I would lean towards balls like Equinox. I think that ball is pretty universal, that you can use it on quite a few things. I actually am beginning to quite like this new IQ, the Ion Pro Solid.
Ion Pro
like
Max Solid.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit more than the original Pro. I feel like it continues around the corner a bit better.
Saw a lot of that last week.
Yeah,
guys, especially with touch.
So although people don't necessarily seem to think it that way, I kind of like, for people who have forward roll, I kind of like asymmetrical balls because I think it gives you a bit of a chance of getting it to come around the corner. Whereas if you're in those symmetrical balls, yeah, it might continue a little better, but I don't think you have a defined hook spot that you can use in the same way. So that's kind of how I see it. Like kind of using, because what you end up having to do if you have a lot of forward roll, you kind of have to use weaker pins. Using like really strong pins isn't really an option. So kind of use those 5 1/4, 5.5 inch pins, but use like a slightly stronger ball, asymmetrical type ball, so that you have some inbuilt help.
And I've gotten to throw this high road 40 a little bit too. And for someone that's a little bit softer, that ball has some.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do a review on it. I broke the cover though, and wow, like
it's it's got a definite defined spot that it picks up, and then it's very round. I think. Like,
yeah, it has that big long window. I can roll, and the one of the things I've really been missing in my game is the ability to roll it.
Yeah.
I feel, and it goes.
Yeah, it's a ball that you can control how much it hooks with speed.
Yeah.
Like, and I love balls like that. Like, if I want it to hook more, I just throw it a bit slower.
Yeah, when you're throwing good, those are fantastic balls to have around. And so, I'm already planning on having a second one of those and leaving one shiny. And then having one with a little bit of teeth in it, and moving it up in the middle because I like the shape so much that I want it to be in play a little more often, other than just when they hook.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, it isn't particularly close to a high road pearl in my opinion. I think it's way stronger than a high road pearl.
No, I think you're looking more at the original.
But even then, I still think it doesn't change direction as hard as the originals. Like the original high roads really they really whipped. For me, original high roads were really good on kind of those longer patterns. Like for me anyway, I always felt like I had other balls that would continue better on the medium sort of patterns. Whereas on that long pattern, it was clean enough, but it was enough to get the
by the time I could throw them, they just weren't the ball anymore. It was kind of like phase twos for me. I didn't get to fall in love with them when they were really dominating.
Hey Andrew, going to nationals, harsh reality, X3, Zen Soul, Zen, Exponent, or pin up, getting a pin down Rockstar. Any suggestions on service and game plan with this Arsenal? Well, without kind of having an idea how you bowl, I think you have a fairly broad bag there. I mean, I'm not sure that you necessarily. I think you're missing something more on the quicker asymmetrical type ball than you are another kind of middle ball. But I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a terrible option. I just wonder what you're going to use outside of the Zen if you have to like open the lane up a little bit. None of those strike.
Rockstar might help a little bit as long as it's not too dull. My last one came out looking a little chalky, and it felt early. I did use a Rockstar, but I had a pin up Rockstar. Playing pretty straight, 7, 8, 9, with whatever, depending on what your skill set allows you to do for a game, and then moving into the track. I found it hard to move a lot left of that because it got really flat, and so you have to be good at being steep if you want to move left of 15. That was my first opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I think people have had that opinion, and I wouldn't say that that's wrong. I just think that the pattern's very flat, so I think you can do whatever you want. For me, I think I was too far right, and I needed to embrace being left because for me, the out of bounds was way more of an issue. I had way more problems with 210 than I did with it overhooking. I think I needed to embrace the friction and just charge in and kind of use like I could have probably used that cell and been okay. But hindsight's a great thing. I chatted to Andrew. Him and Nidav have finished over the left gutter in a team.
I couldn't believe how far left they were in doubles and singles.
Yeah, but they were actually further left in team than they were in doubles and singles.
I can actually see that just because they're flat. And then once you decided to go, it probably wouldn't take very long to blow that part of the lane up.
Yeah, but
I just don't know where you're throwing it to. But they also had two good teams bowling together, I believe.
Yeah, and like I say, for me, I think there's a lot of people who are like going old school, saying, "Well, you got to kind of play right and carry it down or whatever." And I think that, like, for me, the biggest problem with that pattern wasn't necessarily the lack of hold in the middle. It was that out of bounds to the right, and the further left I got, the more I got away from that. And that was kind of how Andrew saw it. And him and Nidav bowl 1500, which to me, I didn't see that as a score that was necessarily out there. Hats off to them, like you say, fair fucks. 760 and 740 is pretty good. I mean, Brandon Biondo bowling with Ryan, I think he bowled 750 also. He's got kind of one of those voodoo rolls, kind of the ginger spin biscuit, as we call him.
Kind of spinny but high rev rate and can hook it a lot.
But I was interested to hear what Andrew did, because to me, I sort of said to Tina the whole time, I was like, if a bunch of pros bowled on this, we wouldn't be bowling to the right. Was my opinion, like looking at it and how it broke down. And it's like I said to Tina a lot. I said, look, I have a lot of experience on how to bowl a lane. I don't necessarily have a lot of experience on how to bowl a lane with 5 other people.
Yeah,
like so I'm not saying that bowling to the right is wrong, and I'm not saying bowling to the left is right. It's just, I think the most efficient way to throw a good score as an individual is to the left. Whether that's practical as a team, not sure. But
unlocked a little secret, really helped my game, keeping the ball as low as possible. Your swing really creates great leverage, two-handed or one-handed. Would you guys agree? Very much Stu's favorite catchphrase here. I don't think there's one thing for everybody, but it definitely depends. For some people, obviously, being really low is great. And I mean, some of the best players in the world over time have done that. Marshall Holman, Wayne Webb, Danny Wiseman, there's lots of guys that hold it low.
I think Chapman likes to do that, and I think that it looks good. I just think that what ends up happening is I think it creates bad habits that you end up picking it up in your backswing. So then it becomes like, once you get a little uncomfortable, it can be a little bit hard to repeat. I'm not in any way suggesting that we should be looking at the Bill Schraub and the, push it up and over the bar for guys. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just like, you've got to be a little bit careful to get it too low, because then you end up just like really controlling your backswing. And that means that you have to control your front swing also.
It will help make your game a little more compact. And that assumes that you have pretty good speed already and can afford to lose a little bit to be more compact.
Yeah.
But it is not one size fits all. For some people, that works very great. For some people, it creates exactly what Stu's talking about. You get a lot of pull, a lot of grab, and then it makes your game more muscled versus more free, which is not what you're looking for.
Talking about a free swing that doesn't necessarily look as pretty as it could, Wayfentan. She pushes that away and just lets it go. And man, like I say, everybody looks at certain things and thinks that textbook is exactly, the way it's supposed to be, or yada, yada, yada. And like, the pins tell you real quick what's the right thing to do.
Ron is a heavier two-handed bowler. I have to be careful not getting too low and toppling over.
You also have to avoid, me and old Wes have to avoid not headbutting the foul line, like getting really forward. It's very easy to do. But yes, if you watch her swing right now, I'm not sure there's many people who would say that it's prettier to look at than Verity's, but it almost feels like it's freer. She doesn't have the extra follow throughs or whatever, so it's maybe not as aesthetically pleasing, but it's sure fucking effective.
It's too far back to find, but somebody asked, what are the Singapore ladies doing that the U.S. ladies aren't, in your opinion? Why are they so dominant?
I don't necessarily think it's. I think they were talking about the Asians in general, like because of course Jane, basically did the same thing as Wayfentan did this season, last season, and she's also bowled pretty well this season as well. But I mean, like, they're just bowling better on TV. I mean, neither Jane nor Wayfentan have bowled better than Jordan the last 2 years. They've just bowled better than she's bowled on the TV show. And I mean, I think Chris can relate to that. Like, you bowled seasons where everybody's like, "Oh my God, Tommy Jones is the best bowler ever," and you're like, "He's 10-0 on TV." Like, I've made 10 TV shows. He's won 10 games on TV. Like, a lot of the time, like the EJ wasn't necessarily being the player of the year. There was a lot of us who were going, "He's bowling pretty well though."
Yeah.
Like,
Simo's got a little of that going on right now.
Yeah.
He's not winning all the time. So he gets overlooked a little.
Yeah, this year, Simo's had almost the opposite, where he's like, he's taken advantage of the few times he's bowled well. He's bowled really well. Whereas the last couple of seasons, I mean, he was making like every top 10, like the whole season, like absurd.
Yeah, the fact that you never finished out of the top 10 for a whole season and weren't really even that close to being player of the year is crazy.
Wild.
But
so it just to wrap that up, I think that last season, I don't think Jane lost a game on TV.
How are they getting there so much more often?
Finals.
You have Sherry Tan. You have Simley Jane. Now this year, Wayfentan. You had Shayna.
What I'm saying is I think that they're part of the group of the 10 or so really, really good players on the ladies tour, like that, like established ones who are making a bunch of the TV shows. I don't necessarily think they're bowling massively better than the other American ladies or the European ladies. I just think they're bowling better in the finals. Like, that's the difference maker. Like, Jordan has made more shows.
Okay, let's break that down though. Why?
But that's what I'm saying. I think that those things are cyclical.
Okay. It's not like an everyday thing that they're just better in that situation.
Well, I think that Jane was better because Jane never misses a spare. Like, and for whatever anybody wants to say, go on Lane Talk, look at the spare shooting. Jane spares like the best guys on tour. None of the other ladies do. They just don't. Like, they miss way more spares than the guys do. Like, outside of...
And that's not the stereotype.
No, everybody wants to tell you that they're better shot makers. It's just the power. And it's just... It's not. Like, Jane is, like, absurd. Like, she struck, like, 30%, 35% last week, and she almost made the round robin.
Wow.
Like,
just made everything she looked at.
Now, the girls weren't striking a lot. I mean, it took 150 under to make the top 36. Now we can argue over whether that scoring pace is a little skewed the other way. I'm like, variety is the spice of life. Sometimes it being a shit show is good. Sometimes it being super easy is good. Whatever. But in general, I think that the Asian ladies make less bad shots, but I don't necessarily believe that Jordan, I think Jordan is as good, if not better, than both of them. And the TV show success is just you go on runs. Like, Tommy Jones looked like he was never going to lose a TV show. Then arguably he was bowling better and he was making more shows and he wasn't winning. So then everybody's like, well, what's happened to Tommy Jones?
Yeah, his brother Sean was the same way. I mean, he won his first 4 shows, and then it took a long time to get to the 5th one. Tommy won basically 10 times in
like
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. He like his first 3-4 shows were 1 and outs.
Mhm.
And then he kind of got some things figured out. And then as he got to be a better bowler, same as Sean, he made more shows where he wasn't doing his A game. And then the shows didn't go as well. I mean, I think that largely happens. But, I do think Singapore players, they practice more. They do have more maybe just general pressure because of the system that they're set up for, so that maybe they're more ready for those situations. That doesn't necessarily make you better in that situation, but they bowl under more stressful situations with how their programs are set up and to stay on the teams and funded and what have you. Maybe that plays into it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that it can come to, but it's not that often that they're the top seed, funnily enough, in these majors that they've been winning. So yeah,
that's a good point.
They've performed when it matters. But yeah,
they're not. They are in better shape. They're working out and training, perhaps.
And like I say, we can talk about all of this until we're blue in the face.
Sure.
Like, Wayfentan's obviously in better shape than Jordan Richard, but they bowled 56 games, and who was the leader? It was Jordan, and Wayfentan wasn't particularly close to her. So, I mean, you can go round and round in circles. It's a 1-game match. Like, they could have bowled on the pair to the right, and Wayfentan might have bowled 180. Don't think she would, but she might have done. She had a good game plan, and we've all been on shows where you've been the low seed and you get comfy. And especially when the pair's a little funky, like it was, where she used the 2 different balls.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't think anybody else did that.
I was turning to Linda. I said, there is nothing worse than going on to a pair where someone who's bowling good throwing 2 different balls is a huge flag that the two lanes aren't the same. And you got to figure out both lanes with 3 or 4 shots on each lane.
It's also why it's very rarely an advantage when they have the dual pattern to be the high seed.
No. Yeah, because it is literally the same thing. You have to figure out 2 different lanes and a limited amount of shots, and the chances of you not getting one of the 2 lanes figured out is pretty high. And whoever won obviously has already got it figured out. So anyway.
Yeah, this is why we had an expert come on and chat about it.
We can't be right about everything. Oh, no. Never mind. All right, this wrap things up. I don't know what my schedule is next Tuesday yet. I don't think the squad's posted yet, so can't tell you. But if I can, I will. If I'm available Thursday, it might be with a noose around my neck. But that's match play day in Hammond. But we will try and come back to you, and hopefully I'm around on Tuesday and we can make this work. And
we'd as your show partner, we would much prefer that you were just bowling well. So, we don't make enough money doing this to justify you bowling badly. So, it'd be much better if you just bowled well and we didn't have you, and then the season finished and
agrees.
We started doing other stuff.
I got one that wants a golf simulator, so bowl way better.
Who wants a golf simulator?
Ryan.
Well, Ryan's got his own money.
Yeah, he can buy it anytime he wants. I get it. He's made.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you'd have no problem in paying him to use it, as long as he was paying the rates to store it and electricity for it and all of the rest. Like, if he wanted to rent space, you would have no problem in donating your $20 every time you wanted to use it. I think you'd work out fine in that deal, Chris.
Yeah.
The going rate for a room is about 500 a month,
Just give or take.
give or take. I mean, mates rates, family rate. The electricity, because obviously it's probably going to be upstairs.
Yeah.
You're not upstairs, so that's additionally. He's lucky you don't have a meter on the upstairs. See if the city will put in a separate meter for upstairs and downstairs.
We're about to find out if he's on his way back from Baton Rouge right now because he's mates rates. There we go.
All right.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Big thanks to Amplify for coming on and giving us a little something different today to talk about. And yeah. I thought it was Happy Wife. Well. Yeah, but in between that, only in my house.
I mean, that's $499 a month more than Chris gets now.
Fair play. Yeah.
Oh dear.
We're never going to wrap this thing up. Hey,
No.
in between now and then, please support the sponsors that support us. Storm Rotogrip, Niner Global, Cool Whip, Bowler Smart, Firelight Bowling Center, Lightning Strikes, and Platinum Ford. Till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
See you later, guys.